So I'm gonna show you guys this for transparency purposes to show you guys the withdrawal process, and on top of that, show you guys that I'm trading with real funds here as well. So you guys can see my trading account number here ends in 780. You guys can see the internal transfer for $40,000. Here are the trades as well. The balance has already been taken out of my actual account, and you can see here account amount transferred is $40,000. I'm even gonna raise up, and you can see the same email for $40,000 there. So the withdrawal's already been processed, and what I'm gonna do is I have my ledger here, and I literally just use this ledger for deposits. You know, when I do withdrawals or when I just get crypto before I send it to either an exchange to sell it, or whenever I get any type of crypto deposit here. So now you guys can see here, here's my wallet balance for 40 grand. I'm gonna refresh this here as well. Show you guys that I'm on the withdraw page. I'm gonna withdraw USDT ERC20, press confirm. I'm gonna withdraw from my wallet. I'm gonna do $40,000, pay myself for this phenomenal trade that I had today. Continue. Wallet address, I'm gonna paste my wallet address in there. Wallet type, it's gonna be a ledger. I'm gonna press confirm. And then there you go. You guys can see my withdrawal has now been requested as well. So now with the withdrawals being requested, I just have to wait for it to get approved, which it could take anywhere between 1 hour to 24 hours. It just depends on, I guess, on the broker to process the withdrawal. But my withdrawal is currently being processed, as you guys see. So when I actually get the withdrawal, then I'll continue this portion of the video for you guys. And last but not least, as you guys can see here, I just received the withdrawal for $40,000. It was approved 17 minutes ago. So at 1:36 p.m. and I just got it in my wallet. As you guys can see here, 38,185 USDT. Obviously there's fees involved when you actually withdraw. And you guys can see I just received it here at 1:55 p.m., which is not bad, like a 20-minute difference, which is pretty good. So just wanted to show you guys the live withdrawal. So before we get into the live video itself, because it is a little bit of a lengthier one, I want to give you guys the reasons as to why I took the trade. So really, we had a big pump in the after hours and overnight, and we printed a few key levels that I wanted to look for price action to essentially pull back to. We did have this 5,700 key level that was printed in the after hour session where we had a lot of volume generated. For those of you guys that don't know what you're looking at here, this is essentially a volume profile. It is not an indicator. It is literally data coming from the CME group, and it's real-time data showing us where the most volume is being transacted. What this is able to actually show us are the gaps in fair value, or areas where we find fair value or high volume nodes. So you have your low volume nodes, you have your high volume nodes, which you could use that information to your advantage in multiple different ways. But more importantly, it also shows us the POC, which is the most volume traded at the day during that time. It also shows us our value areas. So I was looking for price action to overall continue the bullish move from yesterday and overnight after this big relief. And I was looking for a pullback into these 56.66s, and then potentially the 56.54s, which the 66s is going to be a technical key level, and the 54s are going to be a volume profile based key level, which is going to be a value area high, which you can even see here why I prefer trading off of the volume profile value areas and POCs, just simply because there's more depth and there's more truth behind those areas, because that's typically where you're going to see a lot of smart money transactions actually going on inside of the markets compared to technical key levels. And you can see this here happen in real time. We bounce off the value area high, and then of course Trump was a big portion of that because his sentiment was pretty dovish today too on his live speech. So I don't want you to think that just because we saw a bounce off this area, that's what caused this huge move. It was a combination of both, where smart money gets into the markets compared to other traders getting into the markets here. So I tried taking the longs off of this technical key level here, which I ended up getting stopped out a little bit early, and then price ultimately did go long. I could have made money on this position, but I just got stopped out of the trade early, and I got shaken out early because I trade very aggressively. So typically, like the first entry that I get, I'll take. I didn't take it the second time. I ended up getting stopped out over here again, as you guys will hear me say in the video. I actually started off the day losing about $25,000, which is about like 2.5 R multiple on the day, because I risk just around like $10,000 per position right now, which it's probably around like 1%, a little bit more than 1%. But as price came back down into this technical key level or into this volume profile key level, this previous day's value area high, you could see how well this value area high was respected multiple times. And we saw trapped selling down here is where I started to actually execute myself into long positions. So I want to break down the entries for you guys here. So my very first entry that you're going to see is roughly around like the 56, 55s here based off the footprint chart. Why? Because we pushed down into this technical or into this volume profile, yesterday's value area high. What we see is sellers get very aggressive. You can see the amount of volume being transacted here with 450 contracts, 420 contracts. And you could see overall that the sellers were getting very aggressive down here at this value area high, which is just slightly under the value area high as well, and at a low of day as well. And immediately they got absorbed. So there was buying absorption or technically selling absorption in this area here, and we saw price action immediately pop back up. So after I saw this absorption and really no reward for this aggressive selling is when I decided to execute myself into the first position with my stop loss literally just right under the low of day. So after that, as price action started to develop and price started to consolidate here, what I noticed was a zone. What I want you guys to look at here, for those of you guys that don't know what you're looking at a delta footprint chart, which on the left-hand side, we have total volume per price here. So 139 contracts, and then you have a positive delta of 57, meaning that there was 57 more contracts traded on the ask versus the bid at this specific price, which really just tells us that there was 57 more aggressive buyers compared to aggressive sellers at this price. So what I want you guys to look at is really where you see all of the red. You see a lot of aggressive selling inside of this range here being like the 59s all the way down to like the 55s. And even you have multiple stacked selling imbalances inside of the range. So sellers are really trying to bring the markets down here, but we had passive buying absorbing all of that selling, all of that aggressive selling. And essentially they defended the market at this level very well. The passive buyers, whether it be one large passive buyer or multiple passive buyers. But notice how we never came back down into the 54s here at this previous day's value area high. The passive buyers defended this area very well, and you could see that absorption in real time. If you look at a footprint chart in real time, every time price came right back down, we saw price shoot right back up. Even with the multiple stacked selling imbalances that we see in the markets here, price could not come back under these 54s, which gave me the confidence again as we started to seeing aggressive buying coming in, and as I started to see stacked buying imbalances here, I decided to actually add into my position with a stop loss under the low of day as well. So that's why I decided to actually enter and execute the market, and I had the confidence to enter and execute the market. Because imagine the market at that point in time looked basically something like this if you're using a time frame chart. Most people would not be looking to buy this, but for me it was so obvious because I could see the absorption in real time, and I could see how well the buyers were defending that area. Now when you combine that with Trump's dovish sentiment, it was a no-brainer for me to size in very aggressively on this position because I was looking to take this position either. And the thing about it too was that I was sized into this position fairly heavily, and a lot of the times, a lot of people, they typically won't take that opportunity. Like you'll see people only risk like 1-2% of their trading account, and they'll have a very like static risk, but you're never gonna see like true explosive growth inside of the markets if you're consistently risking just the same exact thing. And one thing about getting into order flow trading is that with this position specifically, I had not only the conviction, but I also had the probability significantly on my side for me to be like, okay, you know what? Like this is a really great trading setup. You know what? I'm going to add size onto this trade. And for you guys as traders, you need to be able to know when to take size off of positions and when to significantly add size onto positions. And not even just from my own personal experience, but even talking to other traders who do very, very, very well for themselves, they agree on the same thing. It's kind of having more of a dynamic risk where you're going to significantly add size onto one position, while on other positions and other setups that may not be so high in probability to play out in your favor, you want to decrease and remove size. And really, that's going to come with time, and that's going to come with consistently getting your reps in the markets every single day. So for me, what really I'm most proud of myself was not only did I have the balls to size in when the probabilities were significantly in my favor, but I wasn't even really paying that much attention to the P&L. Like, of course, I was paying attention to the P&L, and I wanted to secure profits, and I ended up closing one of my positions, and essentially the runner is what made me all the money, because I ended up closing my position, one of my positions at like $50,000, $56,000 in profits, which you'll see in the video. And then I let my other position run, because with that position alone, not only was I able to cover my $20,000 sum in loss, but then I was also able to net a gain of $33,000 on the day. And what I'm most proud of myself is I was not emotional towards the P&L. I wasn't married to the P&L, because of course the swings in P&L was I'd be up 40, 50 grand, then I'd be up 20 grand. So, I had those types of swings in P&L, especially during this chop and this consolidation as Trump was speaking, and essentially this absorption was happening live and in real time. So really what I'm most proud of myself again is I maintained logical, and all of my decisions for me to trail my stops, to exit my positions, they were all based off of logic. I let my winner run for as long as I possibly could until my trailing stop loss got hit, and it was as simple as that. I maintained a very well emotional discipline and balance today when it came down to my position, and it was overall like a phenomenal trading day. And I did get a little bit of emotional towards the end when I closed out of the position, because this is the very first six-figure day that I had in over a year. In the last six-figure day, it wasn't really even a six-figure day. It was like a $97,000 day that I had shorting, again, ES and the S&P 500, over a year ago. So I did get a little emotional, where I was like, wow, this is what 9 years in October has led me to. It was definitely worth it, going through all of the trial and error, going through all of that stress, all of that depression, because it's moments like those where I decided to continue to double down on myself, double down on my education, double down on back testing, double down on journaling, that led me to this moment. Building that emotional discipline, building that risk management system, building that, again, conviction to be like, you know what? This is a setup that is super high in probability. I'm doubling down on this trade. And even if I would have lost, I would have been okay with the loss, because I accepted the risk beforehand, and it was all predetermined risk involved. So really phenomenal trade, and I'm really happy to share this video with you guys. So everybody, unfortunately, because I was watching the Trump speech while actually trading here, you can't hear me speak over Trump because I was recording the desktop audio. So I'm going to be doing a voiceover instead. So at this point in time, you guys can already see that price action has taken off, and it's already been in my favor. So what I'm looking for right now essentially is I want to see price take out this high that we see here in the markets and push up into my first target, which is going to be 56.68 on SPX. So when it came to price action pushing up into the POC, what I really liked about price pushing up into this POC was that we had multiple stacked imbalances pushing into the POC, showing buying strength, and that buyers are continuously lifting the ask as we're approaching the POC, and they're not really losing steam here. So really what I'm paying attention to is just how price action is developing along this range. What we can see here too at the POC is we have a little bit of buying absorption. You can see the 105 on the delta, but price action rejected. And you can see how every time price kind of pushes up into that POC, we get a rejection. That shows us that we do have passive sellers trying to hold the market down from this point of control, which at this point, I was still very confident in the position because we're not getting like a big breakout to the downside. We are getting a little bit of a pullback, but not like a big breakout. So I'm still holding the position. That's basically what I'm explaining. And what I'm explaining here right now is that we have the stacked buying imbalances here. The POC just shifted slightly a bit lower because we have more volume being traded at this price. And what we're seeing is buying coming in, but we also have that absorption there. Now, the absorption most definitely can be eaten through when buying strength does come back. And if those passive sellers or that passive seller is no longer continuously willing to sell to the buyers, then at that point, we could see that absorption get eaten through and we'll see price pop back up. So I'm going to fast forward to this here because we kind of consolidated here for a little bit. And then you could see the breakout to the upside here. You can see how much, you could really see the difference here from before. And you can see all of the aggressive buying coming in here at the point of control, and the fact that we didn't see that breakout to the downside, we didn't see like a big move to the downside, gave me the confidence to continue to hold my position. Now, what you can see me doing here on the actual Trade Locker software is I'm actually setting my take profits and where I'm looking for price to push up into. So the first target I'm looking at is for price to push up into this previous high here. The second target would be a 5,700 key level of support, and you can see the breakout happening right there. You can see all of the buying that's coming inside of the markets and really how the market was continued and buyers continue to support the market higher. You can see a big negative 405 on the delta as well, which if you see that much selling and prices still pushing higher, that's a big red flag as a seller. That's not something I'd want to see. That'd be a huge sign of me exit the position. But as a buyer, this is something that I would love to see. And as you guys can see at this point in time, I am floating 6 figures in profit. I'm floating $105,000 in profit at this time. Now, what's kind of going through my head is I potentially want to trail my stops or maybe even close one of my positions, because as we discussed before, I did end up losing my very first 2 trades of the day, making me be $25,000 roughly in the red. So that's kind of what I'm contemplating here right now. And I'm looking at the market as we're continuing to push higher and higher. So as you guys can see, I have 2 positions here in the market. One's floating $47,000 in profit, one's floating $60,000 in profit. Now what I'm looking out for is I want to see continued stacked imbalances as we saw over here, to show me that buyers are continuously lifting the ask and that we're starting to see more buying coming in than selling, which will support a continued push to the upside. And I want to see those buyers gain strength, especially as we're pushing into this VWAP here. So now that we're pushing into that VWAP, I decided to close my position that was in the majority of profit, which was $60,000, which looking back at it now, I should have closed my position that was in less profit down here, because I would have still been maybe $33,000 in the green on the day if worst case scenario this trade goes to break even, but I would have had a better entry on the other position, in turn making me more money. So really what I'm looking for again is that same concept. I'm looking for stacked buying imbalances, and I'm looking for buyers to continue to come into the markets here. What we could see is the cumulative delta per cluster is maintaining very, very steady. 717, 476, 295, and as we're pushing into this VWAP, I want to see again reward for this buying. We're at 550, 600 on the delta. I want to see price push through this VWAP, because if we have all these buyers coming into the markets and we're starting to see price reject and even flip and come back down, then we could potentially see a reversal because of all of this trapped buying here. Now, ideally what I was thinking, and I was kind of discussing in the video, is that we have the POC, and at this point in time, we're trading at where this high volume node inside of the market actually is. So with all of this volume being traded here, if we could break above where all of this volume came into the markets from basically the entire session, then that area will act as an area of support, and we'll most likely continue to see price action keep pushing up from there, because we could see where all of the market participants are actually coming to the markets. You could see how many orders are actually coming into the markets here. So that's basically what I was explaining at the time, is if we see price action pop through this area, we could probably see price come back down, and as long as buyers defend it, it'll act as support, and then we could see a push into the value area high, which is my second target on the day. So I'm gonna fast forward this a little bit here, but you can see how much more buying is coming in. We're at 807 on the delta. We're pushing up into that VWAP, and again, I want to see that strength. We have a positive 195 on the delta, which is a really good sign as well, especially that we're trading above it and that we are seeing reward for this buying. We're revisiting VWAP. The only little concern that I had here at VWAP is notice how every time we push up into the VWAP, we see more buying coming in, a little bit of a rejection. Not too much of a crazy concern, because it's not like we've seen a rejection, a lot of volume come in, and then a reversal. So I wasn't really too concerned. I was really holding the position, and what I was really looking for was price to push up into my first target here. So I'm going to fast forward to this. So there's a lot of consolidation, a lot of waiting. So now I'm going to kind of rewind this a little bit here. So now we could see that all of this buying was rewarded. We did start trading above the VWAP. We could see a 1001 on the cumulative delta for this cluster. So there's a lot of buying, aggressive buying coming into the markets right now, which will continue to support of structure, which I still want to see price come and test this high. Is basically what I was explaining. And a lot of this really is just a big waiting game. And what I wanted to see here, and basically what I'm explaining, is now that we've kind of shifted, the POC has shifted higher, I want to see price maintain above the POC, or I'm going to close my position. But then also my thesis is also starting to play out as well. Now that we're starting to trade above where all of that volume is traded, we can most definitely see a bigger distribution to the upside here, is what I was basically explaining. So now we can see more buying coming in, we could see price, or we could see more buying coming in now. We're starting to see reward for all of that buying. And really what I'm looking out for here is for a quick push up into this high here, so I can continue to potentially trail my stops, analyze the situation, maybe close the position. But again, this is all just one big waiting game here. So really quick, I'm just going to let this play out here. A lot of buying starts coming into the markets here, and all of a sudden what we're going to see is a huge pop up as it did there. You guys can see how explosive price was. Price immediately had hit my target, and at this point, again, I'm calm, I'm cool, I'm collected, I'm just watching price. But because of all of the volatility that came in, like a lot of newer traders will make the mistake of just leaving their stops normal when it's like, okay, well, we've seen that much volatility come in. The same way that volatility came into the markets and pushed price in my favor, price can do the complete opposite. So because of all of that extra added volatility and volume that did come into the markets, I decided to trail my stop loss even tighter. And I was like, you know what? I've already secured 60 grand on one position. Worst case scenario, I'll secure another $50,000 in this position, and my trailing stop loss does get hit, which is going to be under this candle low, which is basically going to be where all of that buying came in before this volatility actually came into the markets, pushing price in our favor. So I'm just going to kind of play this here. Now, this is also really important here as well. You guys can see that there was 123 contracts on my large trade volume indicator. So there was one big single position for 123 contracts that just got filled. What I was kind of explaining there in the video was basically, now that we've seen this big buyer come into the markets, I'm going to want to see that big buyer defend his position. I'm not going to want to see price break below this and the sellers get through where this big buyer came into the markets here at 56.87. So because that big buyer came into the markets, we've already printed a low, and we basically retested that previous structure before this big buyer came into the markets. We should see that big push to the upside. Now, what I'm looking for is another push up into this next key level over here, which is going to be my second take profit, which would be 5,700 on the futures market over here. So you can see how price is pushing. You can see more buyers coming in here as well. You can see how cumulative delta actually picked up here. So what I was kind of looking at and analyzing the situation is, okay, well, I want to trail my stop loss even higher to where slightly under this cluster where this big buyer came into the markets, because I wouldn't want to see the markets break back below there. I would want to see this buyer continue to defend his position. That was the thesis behind that. And what we're going to see here really quick as well as I'm trailing my stop loss up. I'm actively trailing my stop higher and higher. What a lot of people would do is just leave their trailed stop loss at a point where they're like, okay, well, I think if price has this much room to breathe, then we could potentially see price. I think if what a lot of people would do in that situation is not continue to trail their stops. And for me, I'm actively trailing my stops because although, yes, I want my winner to run as long as possible, I don't want to give price action too much room I don't want to give price action too much room to pull back on me, because in this situation here, this is where I'm secured profit. So essentially, this is what I'm currently risking for just this. That's what I want you guys to visualize. I'm going to pause the video here. I want you guys to look at where price action is currently at right now. I want you guys to look at where my stop loss, my trailing stop is. At this point in time, I'm waiting for price to get up into my second take profit here. So if we were to put an R multiple tool on this would be what I'm looking to gain, and this is what I'm looking to risk. It's a negative R multiple, but most people don't look at it that way. So for me, I'm finding ways to actively trail my stop, so I'm always having a positive R multiple, although I'm already significantly and heavily floating in the green. And then again, if we look at this cluster here, look at the amount of selling that's coming in, but price is still pushing higher. So that's a really good sign for my position for price to continue to trade higher. So then we get a big push to the upside here. You can see how cumulative delta is starting to pick back up. And then you can also see down here as well, this is going to be session delta. We even have session delta over here. So if we just take a quick look at session delta, we went from negative 374, negative 1700, negative 1600, negative 900, negative 600 to now we have a positive session delta. That should tell you how much buying is coming into the markets. And at no point, because session delta was like negative 6,000, 7,000, and we flipped, and now we're at a positive session delta, should you be looking to short this market because the buying strength is so heavy. Now, we've pushed up into our value area high. This is what's going to be important here. What I'm doing is I'm trailing my stop loss to basically where the bottom of this cluster is because we've pushed up into our value area high. I know there's going to be sellers coming into the markets here, and we could see some form of a reversal or a pullback before a potential continuation higher. And I was not willing to allow price to pull back that much on me for there to be a probability for price to not even go up higher, for there maybe to even be a full-blown reversal. So I'm watching price here, and really what I liked about price here at this point as we're approaching the value area high, again, we have stacked buying imbalances here. Look at the delta, 102 on the delta, 134 on the delta, 160 on the delta. They're stacked buying imbalances. Along with that, look at the next cluster, negative 97. Look at all of the aggressive selling down here towards the low of this cluster, but price is still pushing higher. Now look at the top of this cluster here. We have a 216 on the delta. What I'm going to want to see is reward for this buying, but I still have my stop loss trailed higher. So at this point, just kind of watching price. Price has already hit my second target. I'm going to be looking for price to come up into my third target all the way up here, which I'm going to just fast forward to this. And basically what I'm explaining in the video is what I'm explaining in the video to you guys right now. So buyers are coming into the market up here. This is where we see significant buying. I'm going to pause the video really quick. This is where we see significant buying. We see 313 on the delta, 276 on the delta. But notice how every time price came up into where the buying is, we had price come right back down. Again, these are passive sellers trying to hold the market down, but that absorption can be eaten through if there's enough buying pressure inside of the markets here, which is why obviously I'm not closing my trade, because even with all of this aggressive selling, the buyers are still not letting up. We're trading here at the value area high. We're at 5,700. That was a target I was looking for on the day. I'm still holding my trade, giving price a little bit more room to breathe here. Now, what I want you guys to kind of visualize here is this is my, essentially, this is where price is now. This is my trailing stop. I'm targeting this area here. So my R multiple is still very, very positive in this situation here. Now price, as you can see, is pushing the upside. All of this buying over here above the value area high is getting rewarded. But even then, guys, like you wouldn't want to find yourself in a situation where you're taking these longs right here. You want to be in the position way before that happens. So price is still pushing, and you can see the amount of sheer volume coming in. Now, what I decided to do was trail my stop loss up a little bit more, so that way I'm securing a little bit more profit here. As you guys can see, I'm floating 130 grand on this one position alone. Now, again, what I'm looking to do and what I should have done better here is I should have continued to trail my stop in this situation here. I'm looking for price to pump up into this high over here that you see, which I believe on CME is 57.15 or so. Now, I want you to look at this risk to reward perspective. This is where my trailing stop loss is. I'm secured 6 figures profit. This is where price is. This is where I want price to go. So I'm willing to risk this amount of profit here for this potentially. And I was okay with that, even if I did get stopped out. And we've just hit another target there, which is what I was explaining in that portion of the video. And then all of a sudden, random volatility comes into the markets from, again, Trump speaking. You can see how price exploded to the upside really quick, and I got taken out, and that was as simple as that. You guys can't see it that well, but I'm gonna show you guys here real quick so you could look at me and pay attention to me at the bottom left-hand side of the screen. I got stopped out at break even because of this random volatility that came into the markets, and it was such like a big relief, and it was like a moment of like, wow, what a insane trade. I mean, I made literally 6 figures in 20 minutes. So anyways, it was a little bit unfortunate that I couldn't show you guys the live video because all you really hear is just Trump speaking over me the whole time. You could barely hear my voice, unfortunately. So I decided to do the voiceover instead because I felt like it was a little bit of a better option. I still wanted to show you guys the actual trade itself, my thought process behind what I was doing, the different things that I was looking out for as the trade was playing live. But other than that, guys, I'll talk to you guys in the next one.